But first, back to Isabel Oakeshott, Talks International editor. Yeah, so old crazy Ed Miliband. First of all, he's making life very, very difficult for fish and chip shops because of the soaring prices of fish, batter, fat, wrapping paper, and mainly energy, which of course is Ed's area. But more to the point, he's also demanding that fish and chip shop owners use electricity because it's more, eco-friendly than gas. But they're all saying, well, look, you just can't make effective, good fish and chips with electricity. It's the wrong kind of power. You need the flame of the gas. So if they're forced to do this, everybody will get soggy fish and chips, and nobody wants that. But amid this kind of onslaught, more of Crazy Ed's net zero zealotry, at least a third of British chippies are facing imminent closure. This guy Miliband, Isabel, is so consumed by his own zealotry that he believes any price is worth paying. So if a third of chippies go out of business, if we lose traditional fish and chips, he'll say, oh yes, but we saved the planet, and on it goes. He thinks that net zero, his mad mission to net zero, which will never happen because he's going to get sacked fairly soon anyway, is more important than anything else. People's livelihoods, people's jobs, people's happiness, people's wealth, people's comfort, everything. So now he's got good old British fish and chips in his sights, and what a sad thing.
Oh, well, he won't be forgiven by voters if they lose that, will he? I mean, there's some things that go to the heart of who we are, and the ability to have a good fish supper is definitely one of those things. This level of meddling is just ridiculous. No government, no energy secretary should be interfering on this level. And, everybody needs affordable energy, whether it's gas or electricity or whatever works for them. And it comes back round to the same thing. We have these resources. We're just choosing not to use them out of some ludicrous, totally misguided, self-flagellating quest for a net zero, which, if we hit that target tomorrow, would make the absolute grand total of net zero difference to the global temperature. That's what net zero actually comes down to, net zero difference to climate change if Britain achieved it tomorrow. It's actually a tragedy, isn't it? Because people are paying such a high price for this. And I think for many years, they just didn't realize, because everybody wants to have a nicer planet. Everybody wants to save tigers and polar bears but that's conservation. That's about conserving our environment. Nobody wants to see deforestation, and that may well be linked to contributing to climate change in some way. But we've got to be proportionate about how we address this, and secondly, realistic about our ability to make any difference at all in Britain when you've got other countries that are ignoring it and just kind of powering on.
Indeed. Kemi Badenoch was on Mike Graham's show yesterday, and she suggested that the Tories might open the door. I love the way she called it, to the return of fracking. When did it start? I thought we didn't ever allow it to start. Old Rishi Sunak was busy agreeing with those placard-carrying grannies up in Lancashire who said, if we start fracking, then there'll be an earthquake in Blackpool. No, there won't, you silly old women. But Badenoch is beginning to show signs that she may, even though she's trapped in the Westminster bubble, terrible place to be stuck, it cuts you off from the rest of humanity, she's beginning to realise what Reform already have realised, that if you say to the British public, do you know what, we're just going to get rid of all this net zero claptrap and stop charging you the highest energy bills in the entire world. Your energy bills are going to plummet because we're going to start fracking and we're going to start running power stations sensibly and get back to basics. If Kemi is showing signs of realising that if they could actually get round to saying that, they might get a lot of votes. These politicians, it's weird, isn't it? That they just can't quite bring themselves to say this green claptrap, everyone's had enough of it, even though everyone's had enough of it.
Well, I think just focusing in on the fracking thing, I mean, the fracking industry would not now trust anything that the Tories said on this. You know, they were led up the garden path by too many Conservative politicians making noises about supporting fracking and never actually following through on it. And the industry spent an awful lot of money exploring the potential for this, and over the years just had no real support from the Tory government, running scared, as you say, of ludicrous saber rattling about earthquakes. I mean, come on, you know, the average lorry trundling past a front door is going to make more of a daily nuisance than anything that's going to come from a bit of fracking. People they're just beginning now to really see this for what it is. And I don't think the Conservatives have a leg to stand on here. They spent so long worshipping at this altar themselves. You know, something that the entire new Conservative brand was based on this. If you remember back to David Cameron trying to rehabilitate the Conservatives when they were in opposition by embracing all the greenery stuff. So it's very, very difficult for them to be credible on this, I think.
Totally right. And I mean, if she wants to gain some momentum, just have the courage of a conviction. Say, I tell you what, we're going to copy Reform UK. We're just going to abandon all of it. I would vote for any party that completely abandons net zero, because I know it's going to save me fortunes, and no one has convinced me that all this claptrap that Ed Miliband imposes on us, and other people like Miliband around the world, has done any good whatsoever. It's just making life much more expensive and making us all much colder. It is, I think, just a load of crap that we should get rid of. And that's my statesman-like declaration on this issue.